Hello and welcome to this episode of An Autumn Indian Explores. Today I'm talking about the Castaways of the Flying Dutchman by Brian Jacques. This is the first book in the Castaways of the Flying Dutchman series that was a series of 3 books that Brian Jacques had written in addition to the 23 Redwall books I think we have from him that he completed before his death in 2012, which was very sad. I'm a big fan of Redwall, so I was really excited to read this. It's a different story. It takes place in the real world. There are people. It's a story that's based in history and in historical times, like in a set place, in a set time. It begins in Holland, in the Netherlands, during, I think the 1600s, and they're a group of pirates, and they're gonna go find a treasure somewhere, and somehow end up with this boy who can't speak. He can't speak, doesn't really have a name. They name him Nebuchadnezzar, but they name him Nebuchadnezzar and kind of enslave him on the ship. And when they're in port at one point, a stray dog wanders onto the ship, and this boy who can't speak and this dog become friends, and they become friends. And then they go sailing off. They're going to try to circle this very impossible cove place to get to this treasure wherever they're going, and they can't because it's treacherous. And the captain, who is this very vile villain, truly vile character, just starts railing and throwing things and cursing everybody, and it just kind of, it gets out of hand, and it gets out of hand. And in response to that, an angel from the Lord comes down and says, well, because you're out of control and all that jazz, your punishment is going to be that none of you will be able to die, and you're going to sail in this one stretch for all of eternity. You're going to be these eternal undead creatures living on this haunted ship, and then all of these crew members who he's killed or he's thrown overboard suddenly come back from the dead, and they're all kind of half-living zombie creatures. It's weird. But then the angel also makes a wave Nebuchadnezzar and the dog off of this boat, say, well, because you guys are pure in heart, you guys are good, we're not gonna, condemn you to that. You're gonna have eternal life, but you're going to have eternal youth, eternal life, and just kind of travel around and be able to help people where needed, as needed. Which to these 2 downtrodden characters, that sounds like a great idea. And she grants them the ability to communicate with each other, and she grants Nebuchadnezzar the ability to speak. In the transition period after this, there's a period of 200 years goes by. There's a rhyme in there, of course, that goes by, and in this time period their names are changed. Nebuchadnezzar changes his name to Ben, and the dog becomes Neb, which is its own Neb. Anyway, so the story, there are 3 books. I've only completed the first one. I'm really excited to read the other 2. The story is very different from Redwall, because it's based in the real world. It's real people, kind of hard and fast rules of the world as we know it. But it's also it's very similar to Redwall. He does a lot of the same Brian Jacques tropes, I guess we could call them. He's got the mystery that's solved through these abstract riddles that they have to solve, and the mystery's kind of planted all over the area, and they have to go around finding the next clues. There's talking animals, of course, the anthropomorphic talking dog Ned, even though he can't really communicate with anyone other than Ben, he still has that ability to speak and communicate. He actually gets frustrated with other animals who don't have as sophisticated a communication skill that he has. He's actually, he'll complain about, oh my goodness, this cat does not know how to communicate. And it's really fun. But he also, we get our classic Brian Jacques food descriptions. He has these elaborate meals. They're just, like country lunches that are not, they don't have to be elaborate, but the way he describes it is just like, yeah, this is Brian Jacques. It's just, he gets into detail with the food. He's always, count on Brian Jacques for food. Count on Brian Jacques for anything related to slaves and slaves overcoming their circumstances and rising above that, which is exactly what we see with Ben and Ned as they are taken from this really dark, horrible situation on the Flying Dutchman and into this position where they're able to help go around freely around the world for all of eternity and help out where they're needed. The Flying Dutchman itself doesn't actually come back into the story at all after about the first third of the book. The first section of the book is all about the Flying Dutchman and the background there. He'll have flashbacks to it, and he meets other people who are sailors, and they're very like, how did you learn all of this? And he, how do you know all this stuff about seafaring and whatever? You're only 14. And he's all like, well, he tells one person, like, I was on the Flying Dutchman. This guy's like, you're funny. You're really funny. And he's like, no, really. But other than that, really, the Flying Dutchman itself hasn't really come back into the story at all, even though we know they're out there somewhere, eternally locked in this zombie state. We just haven't run into them yet, so I don't know if they're going to play a factor or play a role in any of the other two preceding books. I am very excited to continue the series. I would highly recommend this series. It's really, really fun so far, and I highly recommend it.